Imagine you have two children. Both children are told in very clear language, don't touch the fire is really hot. And you have one child who says, well, fire's hot. I'm not touching the fire. And the other one says, well, let's see what happens. And they stick their finger in, and right away, their hand, they feel that they get a burn, and they have maybe blisters on their finger. Right. Now both kids know that fire is hot. But there's still a distinct difference between the knowledge of that one kid who decided to not stick his finger in the fire and the knowledge of the other kid who did. Right? When you talk to the kid who touched the fire, right, he has proof. He looks at his finger. He remembers the feeling of sticking your finger into the fire really hot. It's really hot. To him, this knowledge, this piece of information that fire is hot, it's more real. It's more tangible. As opposed to the other kid, well, he doesn't doubt it. He doesn't doubt that fire is hot. He knows his fire is hot. His mother might have told him. It's information. He doesn't doubt its accuracy, its veracity, its authenticity. He knows it for sure. But the knowledge is somewhat of a intellectual knowledge. It's in the brain, right? It's not as real as the other child's knowledge. When we talk about faith, when we talk about knowledge of God, we do not suffice. In Judaism, we do not suffice with knowledge, intellectual knowledge alone. Believing in God, having faith in God, having knowledge of God, proofs of God. You know for sure. You could debate with any atheist. Actually, there's no such thing as an atheist, because it's not possible to have proof that something doesn't exist. You can't have proof that God doesn't exist. So, when we say atheist, we actually mean agnostic. Someone's not sure, unsure, uncertain. You can't have proof. You can't know for sure something doesn't exist. But even if you have someone who knows God exists, he has proof, he has evidence, he could debate with an agnostic, still, it's possible that there's something lacking with regards to faith. Why? Because that faith could be theoretical faith, could be intellectual faith. It could be the kid who knows the fire is hot. What Judaism demands of us is that we don't suffice with just theoretical faith. It has to integrate into our bones. It has to become real and tangible within ourselves. And how do we do that? With a mitzvah. A mitzvah. The idea of a mitzvah is where someone does an action, where someone does an activity that he was instructed to do so by God. And with that, he does a physical action that has an intellectual and spiritual roots, and what that is directing him to accomplish is that he's going to take this theoretical knowledge and make it real. It means the activity of the mitzvah is something which enables a person to take the theoretical knowledge and make it practical. Now, how do we know if we have real, practical, tangible faith of God or just intellectual faith of God? There's one way to find out. If someone really, 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 really knows and feels that God exists, right, he'll act differently than if someone only intellectually knows it's true, could have evidence that it's true, could debate the agnostic that it's true, but if it's just in their head, well, they won't act any differently. Now, I once said this in class. I said that, imagine you were granted an audience with a president or any world leader or any really important guy in any field, business, science, whatever. So you were granted an audience, right? So you would certainly shave before or get yourself all dressed up, put on a tie, make sure you have what you're going to say well organized, right? Because you're going to speak to the president. You're going to speak to some really important dude. If you're going to speak to God, if you're going to pray, and you don't wear a tie, you're talking to God Almighty, creator of heaven and earth, of all the cosmos and every single atom within your body, and subatomic particle. How come you wouldn't wear a tie to speak to God? Now, I'm not trying to say that you have to wear ties when you pray. What I'm trying to say is, if someone has real faith, tangible faith, their faith has permeated their bodies, well, then they're really talking to God Almighty. You have an audience with Creator of heaven and earth, with the eternal, infinite entity that created everything. How could you not wear a tie? The problem is that in our life, our situation is that we see the physical and we interact with the physical. Our senses connect us with the physical world, but not the spiritual world. So therefore, on a sensory level, on a integrated level of the fiber of our being, we think that the physical world, the bottle of Coke here, can of Coke, is more real than the spirituality. That's something in the cosmos that's not so real. So therefore, we put the tie on to meet Obama, or Bush, right, or Clinton, or whatever, Reagan. But to talk to God, well, yeah, of course God exists, I can prove it, but it's something out there. The mitzvah is going to take that information that's out there and make it part of our life, of our bones. And to take this natural limitation that we all have as humans, that we cannot have any interface between our physical body and the spiritual world, the mitzvah is this touch point between the physicality and the spirituality. And the last point here I want to share with y'all is that if you look across the entire Torah, that we have 613 mitzvahs, how many of them are trying to connect us with God on an intellectual level, faith, knowledge of God? And how many are trying to connect us with God, but through our activities, right? Through our bones, through our body, through our emotional sides. What you'll find is that the intellectual mitzvahs are maybe one or two, like believe in God, don't believe in other gods, right? All the theoretical mitzvahs suffices with one or two. That's simple. That's the first step. It's very important. You have to believe in God. You have to have evidence. You have to have proof. You have to have knowledge of God. But that's the first step. Your job, my job, the collective responsibility of all Jews is to take that theoretical knowledge and integrate it into our body. That's our life's goal as Jews. And that's what we have the mitzvahs to do. And the hope is that we take these 613 mitzvahs, nay, these 630 opportunities, as methods or as tools that we can use to try to integrate into our life God. We're not going to just sit around and be happy with mediocrity and say, oh, I believe in God. Oh, yeah, of course I believe in God, yeah. You don't want to discuss the whole thing. Yeah, it's important. It's important. Therefore, you have to have real knowledge, real faith in God. But that's just the beginning as well. Right? Our whole life, right, till we're 99 years old, right, our responsibility is to take that information and to bring it down, right, to integrate it into our lives, to have it be part of who we really are, to make it as real as the table, the bottle of Coke, and all the physical things that are around us. That's our responsibility as Jews, and the Torah is here to help us. Good luck.